What's going on, everyone? Thomas Jordan here for another episode. Today, we are joined by a disability advocate, content creator, and the founder of Adaptive Beauties, Misty Diaz. How's it going?
It's going great. I'm so grateful to be able to talk today.
We are just going to jump right in though. But so, how did you get? I know you're out in LA doing your thing. You do a little bit of commercial acting, you do some modeling, and you do a lot of content creation for TikTok, Instagram, things like that. How did you get started in all of this?
So that is that's a great question. So I'm going to backtrack a lot here.
Sure.
So I was actually working in the hotel industry. I was working in the hotel industry. I was working at a hotel for about 4 years. New management came in and they got one good look at your girl and they're like, she has a disability and she's been here for a couple of years. And we don't like that we have to make certain accommodations. Now, mind you, this was like 8 years ago, 9 years ago. Like, I wasn't like, let me take a picture, let me at this hotel, let me find out on LinkedIn who is, and then tag them. Like it wasn't like that. It was barely starting to evolve into what, social media now. But I show up and I'm immediately fired. And it was for like the most bogus reason of something I never did. I didn't find out till years later that it was actually my manager who was stealing money and she put it on me. And I didn't know that.
What?
Yeah, it was actually my manager that was stealing money and she ended up getting fired. And I mean, they basically came back and were like, "Oh yeah, we're kind of sorry." But it was like in an email type of thing. Like it was never like directly like, "Hey, could you come back to this hotel? Like we'd like to talk to you." It was like, "We took this off your record." Like it was just really crazy. So I was jobless and I was really happy though. It was weird. I was in the parking lot and I was wearing this god awful red shirt and that was my work uniform. And I have always worked, I have a severe disability, which is spina bifida, which happens from birth. And, I use forearm crutches. I wear leg braces. So there's different obstacles with that, but I've always worked. I've always been really independent. I've always been really outspoken. And I just was like, I took off the red shirt, left it on the ground, got in my old I had an old Mazda 6 that I was hanging on for dear life. And I left it there by the tire. I drove off and I went to my studio apartment in Long Beach at the time. And I was like, okay, like, what am I going to do? And I had just kind of started like getting into exercise. I was getting into exercise. I had, come out of a horrible relationship like 7 months prior. I had just had, I'm going to say like 8 months prior, my 28th operation. So I was still like really fresh, really like confused. But I was really happy that I lost a job. I just didn't know what I was going to do for income. But I really kept up with my mental health and I really kept up with my fitness. And that fitness, the opportunities started presenting themselves because I started reaching out to brands. There was like a race in Seal Beach at the time and your girl was broke at $35 to enter this race. And I remember going online and Googling who the race director was. And 9 times out of 10, these races will have a direct contact. I emailed him a picture and I was like, would you please sponsor me? So basically I put them on the spot. And I did that with numerous, like 5K walks. And then they eventually turned into races. And then people started kind of just noticing, hey, Misty's at this race. I started getting invited to this. But how I made money in the beginning was I was just like working. I was collecting unemployment at the time. So I was like just making enough on top of, having a disability. I was collecting state money. So I was like barely like, and I had only this much time frame for unemployment. So I didn't really have to go out and go get like a 9-to-5 job. Like I was like right here. And it just evolved. like races would then start contacting me wanting to know if I was going to come. And then brands would be, at the festival area. Once you finish a race, there's like, you have a beer, you have like all these free things, all like these booths set up with advertising, their company and their brand. So instead of getting their merchandise and stuff and buying stuff because I was broke, I was like, hi, do you have a direct contact? Like, do you have a business card? And I would collect them. And then later on, I would start emailing them. And
Hustling.
yeah.
Straight hustling.
That was what I would do.
Yeah. You just unpacked like a ton of stuff real quick though. Just by any chance, I know you couldn't blast out that hotel that fired you for that obscene reason. Oh, could you say who it is?
Yeah, I just didn't know if you wanted me to. Yeah, it was the Queen Mary.
Okay.
In Long Beach. I was hired originally by a gentleman named Michael. And if I ever meet him again, I just want to thank him so much. I remember going into that interview. They did not know I had a disability. They had no idea. I mean, what is it going to say on my resume? Hi, my name is Misty Diaz and I have a disability. Will you please hire me? No, it's not going to say that. You're going to see my disability right when I walk into that hotel and I'm asked to go into this room where they're giving interviews. And the expressions that people have, because I worked my entire life, 16, first job was Target. I was on a work permit for school. My grades had to be up in order for me to work at 16. Like, so,
it's like the system is crap enough. It's like, why here, let's just make it a little crappier for you. Here you go. You're welcome.
So he didn't have that reaction. He was like, let's get into this interview. How are you today? There was no like pause. There was no delay of like, oh shit, she's got a disability. Great. Okay, let's just give her the interview and, thank you for coming. Because that's what would usually happen. And I said something about his dog. There was like a picture on his thing. I was like, oh, I have a Lola. And our personalities were just like, and like later, I think the next day, he was like, you got the job. But his new management came in. His name was Paul. Shorter dude. And he did not like certain bathroom accommodations. And he did not like that he just didn't like certain accommodations. Yeah. And he would get like really, really irritated. And then there was like $20 missing from like a drawer one time. And I told him straight out, I was like, Paul, if you think I'm stealing money, don't you think I would steal more than $20?
Yeah. It's like, it's not even worth it if you get caught. I used to work at a bank and something like that would happen. Like $40 would go missing and they're like, the immediate reaction is like, you stole it. I'm like, what? Like, I'm not going to jail over $40.
Like, what am I going to do with it? And it's just like little things were adding up and it was like in such a short time. And then I went to HR about something that happened with the maintenance worker. And they didn't like that I spoke up about some inappropriate behavior because he had been there for years. And once I spoke up, I mean, again, this was before, let me get a hashtag. Mm-hmm. This was like right when things were starting to kind of like change. And yeah, it was like between the $20, between the speaking up about the maintenance guy, between like making my bathroom accommodations, it was just like, boom.
One thing after the other. Yeah. And it's funny, what a lot of people don't realize as well as HR is not there for you. They are there to protect the company at all costs from getting sued. So yeah. But and as crappy as it is though, I almost think it's kind of like one of those, I don't know if it's like a universe thing, but it's like it forces you to, okay, well, I can't do this. Now I've got to figure this other thing out. And it like almost forces you into like an entrepreneurship situation where it's like, well, I can't get a job. So it's just like, I got to do it my way.
It 100% was that. When I was in the parking lot, I mean, the asphalt was black. And I just was, and the reason why I say that is because it was really hot that day. And I looked down when I threw my shirt and I just thought, I am never, ever, ever working for a 9 to 5 corporate company ever again. I am never. I've always worked. I worked at Best Buy. I worked at Sports Chalet for 4 years. I worked at Target for multiple years. I worked at a family office. Like I was like done. I'm like, this is it. Like I got
Yeah.
to figure out how to make income, but let me file for unemployment first and like live off of that for a minute and we'll figure it out. I didn't know. I didn't have a plan.
I feel like a lot of entrepreneurship journeys start that way because, and another thing is what a lot of people don't know about entrepreneurship is once you stop working for somebody, you can't go back.
No,
It's like,
no, it's so
oh.
no, it is 100% true. Yeah, my best friend the other day, we literally just had this conversation. She said something because I'm like, yeah, I kind of have some downtime. And she's like, because like during the holidays, if you are a content creator, self-employed, you kind of like start to slow down with jobs and casting, right? And I'm like, well, towards the end of this year, like I have time now. She's like, well, would you think about maybe? I'm like, what? Getting a job? Like,
No.
well, no way. I'm like, I'm going to chill in my home and I'm going to take care of my dog and I'm going to enjoy and just kind of get things, lined up for the beginning of the year. I'm like, but I could never go back to a corporate job again. Never.
Yeah, it's awful, but I think there's going to be a big change soon. You hear all the things about like quiet quitting and coasting and like people are starting to wake up a little bit. So I definitely think the corporate model is going to change because Gary Vee called it. He's like, we have like the upcoming generation has options now. Everyone wants to be an influencer or a YouTuber. Well, that's another funny story too, because I think people get into it and realize how much work it actually is, and how you have
That's
to do
a whole other thing that I can
yeah.
even get.
Yeah, we'll get into that in a second, but
I got something to say.
yeah. But and I know like you talked about fitness as well, and it's like, have you always been into fitness, even with spina bifida? Like, when did you first?
So I actually my background is it's really complicated. And I just started like my background's really complicated. When so I was born premature off the bat. Some of my organs were on the outside of my body, some. And my L5 of my spine was exposed. So this is where all the damage comes from, all the complications come from. I from like right when I was born to like 12, 13, it was just surgery after surgery. And what was happening was I would have a surgery. I would then go into recovery. I would then finally go home. I would then go into like a rehabilitation of like learning how to, whether it be walk again or do things independently. And it was just like a rotation. And it was just one thing after another. So it took up most of my childhood. It took up most of, a really large portion of my life. 20s came around and your girl was crazy. Your girl was like super crazy because my surgery started slowing down. I started realizing, that I was strong and that I was able to be really independent, and her personality on top of everything, it was just like, woo. But, I still managed to keep a job and stuff, but no, like fitness was never like, oh, I cannot wait to wake up at 4 a.m. to run Zion half marathon and be up for, 12 hours. Like it was never like that. But my mom and my dad, when I was in like second, third, fourth, fifth grade, put me in like these little races. And of course it's like, it's nothing. It's really nothing. But I do like remember my mom would be like, okay, you got to cross that finish line. It was like 200-yard races, 500-yard. Like it was just like these little dash races.
Yeah.
I would get like a little medal and I was just so happy. And it was like a full circle moment when I started exercising after my 28th operation, because I was like, oh my God, like the joy that I felt then is like, now that I'm an adult, I was like 28 when I first started like really getting into fitness and just I was like, oh, I feel the same way. Like it was really cool. But no, like I had never really had the opportunity to really grow up. That's why I say like a lot of times to my close friends is I've been able to live like the last 9 years of my life like I'm just now living. Like I feel mentally that like I'm young. I feel like I got the energy, and then like the body's like, no, you don't. But in my head, like, but no, I didn't at all. I had no background, nothing.
Man. So, but like you mentioned your surgeries. Do you know how many do you know how many surgeries you've had? Do you like over the course of a lifetime?
No, we've been like sticking to the number like roughly around 28. We really have because it's like there was like exploratory surgeries, and then there was like a lot of my surgeries though were to help me be independent like I am today. It's like they would move bones from the right side of my leg to move them to the left side to help me be stable, hence why my left side is like super strong, my right side is not. But a lot of these surgeries too, like we just had this conversation the other day at UCLA, which I hardly go to. My health is great. It's like I don't think they really designed me to be at the age that I'm at now, because all of my doctors, God rest their souls, are all dead. Like all of them have passed.
It's like you need those people that you see that's like a movie story, right? You need these people
Yeah,
to fix you and they're gone.
they're gone. They're gone. I mean, I have one that is retired, and the other two doctors are pediatricians.
Man.
And it's
How,
because they were interns from the doctors that had previously passed, and that's the only reason why they've kept me on.
you got
So
to
it's
pull that guy out of retirement and be like, "Hey man, like I need you here, bud."
for real. Yeah. So yeah, I don't think they thought, I really don't think.
So if you are these painful procedures, because I don't like going to the dentist, I don't like going to the doctor. Like I'm such a wuss. Like I mean, if they're moving stuff around like that, is it painful?
So, I can vividly remember I had so due to spina bifida, many individuals who have spina bifida have something during their span of life, a lifetime. It could either happen once or it could happen numerous times where the damage is on the spine. So my spinal cords run like this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Our normal spinal
Yeah.
cord. Mine are like this, and then where the damage is at L5, which is like right about here, it's like a ball, like a rubber band that you get
Yeah.
on the Office Max. It's like all of my cords are just intertwined. So what happens is something called tethered cord syndrome happens.
Mm.
Because when you're growing, those cords, a normal, it would just kind of stretch. It would go with the body. But because of the intertwined, the ball, it's pulling because you can't grow. So it's causing issues. Is this cord affects your bladder. This cord affects your movement on your right side. Each cord plays something individual. So what happens is each individual who has tethered cord syndrome with spina bifida, something is affected. And what I was having, it was like really bad bladder issues. And they did a scan and they're like, you have tethered cords. So they basically go into that rubber band of where your damage is, where all your cords are, and they lift them and separate them and intertwine them. And they leave the other ones because it's just too complicated. So they release the tension. So I've had that 3 times. And what happened was the last time that happened, it was a 19-hour surgery. I woke up in ICU. I remember waking up and not being able to speak because I had a tube in my throat, and my mom was just sobbing. And that was like the first thing I saw. So in my head, I can't speak, I can't move. I'm on like an air bed because they opened up my back. So they have me certain positioned. And she was just like, I have to be honest with you. It's probably not the best thing she should have said, but I think she was just a mess. She's like, they didn't finish the surgery. And I'm like writing on a board, like, what day is it? Like, what time is it? Because I can't speak. And she was like writing, like telling me, and I'm writing to her. And that surgery was never finished, but I haven't had complications. So that's like one surgery that like really was really hard. And then the last surgery that I had was like, it was like the icing. That was when I, lost my job right after, months after the relationship ended. I had never in my life had a caretaker by the state come and take care of me, yet alone. It was just the most like derogatory, like I am independent. I've always worked. I've always driven. I learned in a church parking lot at 15. Like I've always, and now I'm having to ask the state for help. And those are the two surgeries the most that I like. The 28th one is the one that still affects me to this day. But I just have a better way of like coping with it, you know, like you learn over time.
And how does it affect you to this day?
Just pain, like abdomen pain, um, certain things I can't eat. It's like I wish there was like a list of things that I could say that cause, you know, it's not, it's like hit or miss. But yeah, a lot of it is like abdomen pain from them like moving things around. Um,
Because if anybody follows you on Instagram, and I'll put your handle below, but I remember you're very open about it. Like there was ones where you're just like sobbing because you are just in like uncontrollable pain where it almost looks like you can't even move.
yeah.
You're in so like, oh.
Yeah, that I mean that has it's gotten better. Like it's gotten dramatically better, but it's also but it's that the factor of that getting better is also how I deal with it. Like how I switch a mind frame, how I, you know, but also too because now I'm taking care of my mental health and I'm taking care of my physical health. Before it was like I couldn't catch up. Like I couldn't go and work out after I just had a surgery. Like I couldn't, you know.
Yeah, what's the recovery process like after those surgeries? Is it almost what like what's the recovery process like?
I honestly cannot answer that because every surgery is so different. The 19-hour spine surgery, it took me, I mean, solid year and a half. Like it was like
Oh,
it was just again, the mind really, if you have your mindset of I'm going to get out of this, I'm going to do whatever it takes to walk again or whatever it may be, the body follows. But I think that what was happening for a really long time was that I wasn't able to get caught up. There was no in between of, okay, I get to go enjoy life. It was just like surgery after surgery. And it was just like, that's why when my 28th surgery hit, all of those things happened in my life, the relationship, the job, but I was really trying to be active. It was just like, okay, here I am. All these things are happening to me. I no longer need the nurse because I am getting my independence back. I just lost my job. The relationship sucks. Like, am I going to be uncomfortable and live like this and just keep the same motion? Or am I going to really try to double down on exercising and just give it a shot and still be uncomfortable? Because I mean, who wants to wake up at 6 a.m. to run a 5 or a 10K? And then and that's the thing is like you have to work yourself up. So there was a process of me getting to that, especially on crutches. It wasn't just like I woke up, I was like, oh, I can't wait to do a 5K today. It was like, oh, I made it 2 blocks.
yeah.
Oh, I made it 3 blocks. It's just, yeah.
And when you said it, it sounds like like the world was kind of like crumbling beneath you when all that stuff was happening. When I was in LA, like, you kind of pick up on some like universe woo-woo stuff. And one of my mentors says when that type of stuff is happening, that means your life is in for a big change. And it's like, I wish I would have known that now, because he says instead of like resisting it and being like, oh my gosh, like the world is falling or the sky is falling, it's like you lean into it because something huge is about to change. And I don't know if you believe in stuff like that. And if you do, did that happen? Like what changed after that?
No, it's funny because this is nowhere correlation, but I was telling my friend, but it is at the same time. I was telling my girlfriend again the other day, I was like, it was like 6 o'clock and we were going out to dinner. And I said, man, I'm really tired. Like I wish I knew the day that I was out at a club or drinking with friends that at like 12 a.m. Like I wish I knew that last day of when that would be so uncomfortable and I would not, you know what I mean? Any party past 6, 7 p.m. Like I'm done, like I'm home. Like I wish I knew that day that it would switch over, and I don't, but
still waiting.
yeah, or like, after the 2 drinks, like I can't have any more, but I used to be able to drink and go to work and function. And I wish I knew that day that it switched. And I don't. I don't.
Well, make sure you let me know when that day comes because I'm always curious.
Yeah, yeah.
But it all depends like where your beliefs and stuff are. I know, like I said, I picked up some woo woo stuff in LA. But to go back to the fitness thing though, like those who don't see your stuff on your videos on TikTok and Instagram, like when we talk about fitness, I think just like an average person would just be like, oh yeah, go to the gym, walk around, maybe hop on the treadmill, maybe go outside, walk around. That is just not the case with you. It's like when you go on your Instagram, you're like climbing up 15-foot ropes, doing Spartan races, like stuff that like just it's like hard stuff for
Yeah.
anybody, right? And you're just crushing it.
I think, you know what, one of the grateful things that I really tried to remind myself and stick in the forefront is all of these surgeries, all of these times where I had to make really hard, difficult decisions. I mean, I was signing do not resuscitate forms by the time I was like 11. Like my mom and my dad were very like honest and open with like, hey, we're here at the hospital. We know you're getting ready, for surgery. Back then they would have you come a day before.
Mm-hmm.
You would be prepped. They would get you in your room that you would go back into after surgery. They would have you meet the staff. I mean, it's completely different now, but they would be like, okay, is this the choice that you want? Do you want to be resuscitated? Like if something happens? And they were always very honest with me. And the reason why I mentioned that is because all of these hard, difficult things and I was having to make these choices really helped when I was trying to cross this 10K finish line, when I was trying to cross a 14 hour race that we did in Hawaii for Spartan, or when I went to Red Bull and climbed up a ski mountain only using my upper body. Like that is when it was like, wow, what I went through has really helped me, change my mind frame, and just it's worked in my favor. Like I'm mentally strong. So this is why I'm able to mentally and keep moving forward.
Have you ever read the book Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins? Because
No,
no, he's a Navy
no.
SEAL. You got to read it or get it on
Okay.
audiobook. Like
Yeah,
he's
yeah.
a Navy SEAL and he talks about doing all these races. But like he talks about how, I guess, right before he got into the military, he needed to lose like 100 pounds in 3 months and he did it.
Ooh.
And like he does all these like not Spartan races, these like super ultra marathoner crazy people stuff. And he talks about like he finishes them with like broken ankles and like torn shit, like taping himself up, and he's like running on broken legs. It is ridiculous. And that
Wow.
just kind of reminds me of like how like just kind of what you were saying. That's why I was just curious because it's like you have to, I feel like now you've developed that mentality of just that, just like you gotta, it's one of those, you just gotta do it. But
Yeah.
was it always that strong or did
No,
you develop it over time?
no. I want to say, like I previously mentioned, like my 20s is when I was like, okay, things are slowing down. But prior to that, like I had the state came in one time because I had taken too many pills, and we know what's happening there.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like, I'm checked out. Like, I don't want to be here. This is what's happening. Ambulance came, state came in, took away my rights. They were like, you have to go through, an evaluation process now. Like, why are you having such, why are you feeling so depressed? Like, what's going on? And I'm just like standing there going, are you serious? Like, you don't see like what I'm going through, like, you know what I mean? And I get that the state has to ask that and go to the, but it was just like, I was like 17, 18, 19 years old, and it was like I could not have a mirror in my house. I could never, my first apartment, I didn't even have a mirror. I could not, I did everything I possibly could when I would go on dates to hide that I had a disability, which makes no freaking sense because you look at me and you can see I have a disability. So I don't know what I was thinking. Like, hello.
Maybe they won't notice this one
Yeah.
time. Yeah.
I was like, if I close my eyes, they won't know. Like, I don't know. But it was like a multitude of things. I didn't meet anybody with my disability until my early 20s. So imagine walking around, not seeing anybody with your type of crutches, your type of leg braces. nobody, I couldn't go online and be like, hashtag spina bifida. Oh, wait, there's a multitude of people. Great. My mom, she can have, join a Facebook group of mothers. No, I mean, if I didn't meet anybody until I was in my early 20s who had spina bifida, neither did my mom. So here we are just trying to navigate, not having any blueprint, any support. I was making some really bad decisions when I was young. I was.
And I feel like we all do, but I just, and you don't have to go into the details if you don't want, but I'm sure there's other people listening who may be going through what you were going through. What I say, I just want to be kind of careful how I ask this, but it's like, what was like the straw that broke the camel's back for you to just take all those pills?
So this had actually happened a couple of times. So the state was like, hello, you have a record.
So it wasn't just that once. It was
like once. Yeah. Like the second time they were like, okay, red flag. Like, you're not mixing your meds on accident here. Like, you don't need someone to control and distribute it. Like, you are actively trying to harm yourself. And I think it was just, it was a multitude of things, but again, I was so incredibly alone because it was like, I had all these questions I wanted to ask somebody who had my disability, but I had nobody to ask. And then you're at a really, like, even in your 20s. I mean, for me, I was still at that age where I was still a little embarrassed to ask my mom. I was still, and she was going, I mean, they're living life, like they're learning life too. And it's like, they had their own stuff going on as well. And I think it was just like, it was a mixture between that. It was a mixture of not accepting who I was. I could not, like I can today, stand in front of a mirror and be like, damn, that jacket looks great on you. It was like, I'm ugly. I don't belong. I'm not worthy. Like, I have a crappy job because no one wants to give me a shot, because there's all these things. And, at that age too, you're like new into dating. Like, you should be like, like having fun, and nobody wanted to date me. Like, nobody, even with my personality. And it wasn't because that I was disabled. It was because of the way that I was coming off of, I wasn't in acceptance of this. I wasn't in acceptance of me. It wasn't because I had a disability why I wasn't going on dates. It was because I couldn't stand full and be like, I am beautiful today. It was just like a multitude of things. There's like not one specific thing.
Yeah, and I can't remember where I heard it, but they say like that way is like the worst thing you could do, and like it's super painful. Did you experience that?
So the last time it happened, I remember. So if you read this one ever in my book, act surprised, like, oh, I've never heard this. Like, wow, this is so like, but so I think it was like literally like it was a fresh bottle. It was like 200. And I remember just grabbing whatever I had in my shelf to drink. And I had seen an ex that I was with for quite some time. And he was with his new chick. And I had, my parents were I know we mentioned, but I won't go into major details, but my parents were like a really hardcore religion. And in my early 20s, I was like, I'm done. I am not allowed to be my true authentic self. I'm under all of these restrictions on top of all of these obstacles that I face having a disability. So I'm getting it from every angle, like literally every angle. And you're telling me that I can't hang out with so-and-so because they're not your religion, which I am because I'm living under your roof. So once I like moved out, early 20s, I was like, I'm separating myself. And the consequence of that is severe, like severe. It is like, we cut you off. We don't talk to you. That's our mechanism to get you to come back because you're lonely, because you miss us. And here I am in a relationship that ends after a couple of years. This is what's going on here with my family. The relationship ends. I go to a function. He's there with his girlfriend, new girlfriend. And it's like so much is just kind of like caving in. I can't get ahead because I don't have support. It's like all these things. So I take as much as I can. And I had just moved into this apartment. And I could literally feel, I was sitting on this brown, ugly couch that I had. and I had like this bulky coffee table, and I put the pills on the coffee table. I sat on the couch and I was like, okay, well, when does this work? Like, great. Like, this is this gonna happen now? Is this gonna like, and it was like, I just kind of was like waiting after like taking like 200 pills and nothing happens. So then I'm like, so then I start panicking. And I remember it. Like, I was like sitting on the couch, looking around, going, okay, I didn't drop, and this is going to take a second. So this is going to be probably really painful. So, so yeah, so I didn't know what to do. And I didn't call 911. By the time I got my old Nokia phone that had Snake on it, I like called my mom, which she wasn't supposed to be, interacting with me to the extent that she did. And she picked up the phone. It was like 3 a.m. And she happened to they lived only a few blocks away. And she said that she could, from that point on, I don't remember too much, but she was just like, I could hear it in your voice that something was wrong. And I feel like it was literally just like a split second and she was there. I felt like it was like Superman, like just flew in, and like by the time she got there, I just remember being in the ambulance and then tying my hands together, shoving a tube down my nostril, pumping my stomach with charcoal, and I was just like all over myself. And this cop with the clipboard is like talking to my mom as she's crying, and this other cop is like reading me my rights. So again, it's like chaos.
What like a roller coaster of emotion, man.
It's like pure chaos. And then in my head, I'm like so grateful that I'm alive. But on the other end, I'm like, here I am presented with all of this trauma and like chaos. And now I'm kind of upset that this was not the best way. So then I'm angry. It was just like, it was so overwhelming. And yeah, like they put me into like some unit, and I went through the process. And the only reason why I was able to get out when I got out was because my mom really, really advocated for me that she would be like watching and taking care of me.
Was it when you found out that you were going to live, and there's only a couple things I just want to touch on real quick, is just kind of like how you felt when you were like, you knew that you were going to live. Was it a mix of emotions? Was it relief? Was it anger? Cause yeah,
it was everything. It was angry that this was probably not the best way. What is wrong with you? Like, what are you doing with your life, Misty? Hi, Mom. It's nice to meet you after you've disowned me. Like,
yeah.
I'm so grateful you came to the rescue, but at the same time, you had to wait for it to get to this bad. It was a mixture of everything, of like, oh, great, I survived. But at the same time, I'm like, great, I'm alive. But it was just a multitude of everything. And then you like switch over because you're being booked. You're not going to jail, but you're being booked into like a mental institution. Kern County mental. Nobody, first of all, wants to be in Kern County. Secondly, you do not want to be in Kern County in a mental institution. It is not the Four Seasons. Like, and it was just like, oh my God, like, what did I get myself into? Like,
yeah. And like I said, this is the last question, because I'm just trying to like paint the picture here. As far as like when you first took them all, like when you downed everything, was it like a feeling of what did I just do, and like kind of preparing for the end? Or like what? I remember, I know this isn't the same thing, but I saw an interview of the guy who jumped off of the Golden Gate Bridge, and he said, as soon as he jumped, it was like immediate regret. Right. Yeah. And it's like, you just don't know what's going to happen. It's like, so I'm just curious, when they went, you took everything, like what was the next immediate feeling?
I just remember sitting on this ugly brown couch that I had, and I just remember just taking it all. And I think my immediate, from what I remember, was I didn't think it through. My brain didn't register to what was happening, because it was a slow process of me losing the ability to talk, me losing my strength, me losing everything. I think I was just like really, really scared. Like I was like really scared. And if you ask my mom today, she will say the same thing. I could see the fear in your eyes of like, what did I do? But
Mm.
I mean, I'm grateful nothing happened, because now I have a wonderful life, and I'm happy, and I
And
have
Lola.
yeah, I got the best dog ever, and like I'm looking to adopt another dog. Like what in
Oh,
the world? Like
you can't cheat on Lola like that. What are you
no,
talking about?
she's right
Uh,
here. She's like
yeah.
listening.
And if you, yeah, and if you, and I know you went, obviously you've gone through so much, and I know you're such a huge advocate for stuff like this. Do you have people reaching, now that you have a platform, do you have a lot of people like reaching out to you with like very similar stories and very similar pathways?
So there has been over time, over the last like 7 years is like when I really started, like 8 years. We'll go 8 years. 8 years of I like really started like living my life, putting myself out there, I'm more honest now than I was 2 years ago. And it's come with time, and it's come with learning, and more of acceptance. And I think the more that it is happening, yes, I have a lot of girls that will message me from from Instagram or whatever social media platform, and they're like, I have a disability, but I don't know how to communicate that to somebody. I don't know. I don't want people to know. Or I have tried to do this, and it is a lot of similarities. It's a lot. But every case is different, and I'm grateful that we have social media that we can use in such a positive way to connect and read stories and watch reels. And I really wish I had that.
Yeah. And is there any story that sticks out to you? Whether you want to tell it or use their name, or you don't have to use their name, but is there a specific person who's reached out to you that it was like that story has just stuck with you forever?
I want to say every one of them that I've heard, or that I still receive a couple of DMs. I mean, even like the last couple of weeks. There's something I take from every one of them, because there is a similarity, but there's also a couple of things different. I have somebody who is her family is a certain religion, and it's not natural. It's not something that they talk about, that they've had a grown child in her mid-20s who has a disability. So now she is forced, because she's had no other examples, and she's afraid to be vocal about having a disability. So she hides it, and she can hide it to a certain degree. And it's like, I see things like that, and I just think, man, like our community is so open and so like willing to help, and like so like accepting. Like if you were just to be honest with yourself and come to us, like instead of behind closed doors, literally asking questions, like you're asking me because you're too afraid to post. Like, I don't know, things like that stick with me, because I was that person who didn't have that opportunity. And now that I have the opportunity to go to somebody who has my disability or connect, it's a blessing. I look at examples like that, of not to go back to that mind frame.
And if you, yeah, sorry, I got lost. I get lost in my own interviews sometimes. I'm like, with these stories, did you ever think that like you were kind of going to be almost like this poster child person where people like look up to you and are, you give them inspiration or motivation? At any point, did you think that you would be where you are today?
No, I could barely help myself. I mean, that was furthest from my mind. That was absolutely furthest from my mind. Over time, because I kept trying, because I kept putting myself out there, because I kept speaking up, I slowly started to see that it kind of was changing. And by me putting myself out there, whether it be racing or, messaging brands or messaging people, individuals, for advice, for help, who are older, who have my condition, who have something similar, I saw it to slowly start to change. It wasn't an overnight thing, but no, I never thought about that. I mean, I could barely No, I mean, no. Yeah.
and, and so what are some of the new challenges that you are facing now?
New challenges in regards to like myself or
Yeah, like mentally, physically, like I said, because I mean, looking on the outside, and if anyone saw, like you said, Instagram is everybody's
yeah.
highlight reel. They think you've got it all and everything's all
Oh, of
hunky
course.
dory. And it's
No.
like you've just evolved so much as a person. So I'm just wondering what new life challenge or what new challenges is life put in front of you now?
So right now I am becoming and I'm catching myself and sometimes it's happening during that exact moment or it's happening a day or two later after I have already kind of caused this negativity over the situation or whoever's in my circle at that time. And then I have to go back and apologize or make amends somehow. I'm noticing now I am becoming frustrated with getting dressed. I am getting frustrated with not being able to grab my shoes, throw them on, and run out. Like I can't do that. There's a process for me to get dressed. I need so much time. It's not really a lot. Like there are other individuals who have disabilities who have a caretaker that they have to wait for to get dressed. I'm still independently able to do that. I'm still very independent. It's not that. It's just that like I'm noticing that I get really frustrated that, oh, okay, I have to put my jeans on, getting on the floor. I can't put my foot in, my leg into the jeans. I can't put my right leg in because it doesn't want to lift. Like it's like I have to adapt and maneuver. And sometimes I'm around friends who don't consider that sometimes. And they're like, let's go. And I'm like, I'm coming. Like,
Yeah.
and then it's like I get frustrated, and then it's like you're half dressed, and you don't want them to be, behind. And it's just, and sometimes it's not like planned out where we know we're leaving at a certain time, or it's like spur of the moment. Like I'm becoming frustrated with that, and I'm really working currently on like ways that I can work on that better because
And
I
how
get really tense.
And how are you? Yeah, and that's the thing. And it's just like anything else. Like when you get in those type of positions, I'm always curious to anybody how they get out of like that funk where it almost feels like either the sky is falling or you're just
Yeah.
frustrated almost, and you can't get out of that funk. How have you gotten out of it?
So far, I am realizing when I'm becoming frustrated with getting dressed. Like I'm starting to recognize it, like the signs of like my jaw is getting tense. I'm like getting really frustrated that I can't pair something together. There was an outfit I really wanted to pair the other day. I lost it. I lost my shit. I was like looking at a picture on Pinterest of this model. He was wearing this outfit, and I could have sworn I had everything in my closet to make this outfit. Like I pinned it. I was like, I'm gonna wear this. I'm gonna go out. I bought this top off Amazon to like complete the look. Yeah, it looked nothing. Looked nothing
Yeah.
like the model. So then I'm like left with like these items that I bought and some that I have in my closet, and I'm so frustrated. And it's not working because it's not accessible. It's not like the zipper. A lot of my zipper, it's a whole nother thing, but it's like certain zippers work, certain zippers don't work. Like I'm 4'4". I can't just go and get a pair of jeans and be like, oh, here's my jeans. They're dragging. Like things have to be altered. And I had really hoped that was going to be how it was online when I saw the picture, and it wasn't. And I'm just like really just taking note of certain signs of when I become frustrated and just saying, you know what? We're going to go back to the drawing board and we're just going to wear what we have and we're going to be confident in that. And that's how it is. We'll plan better next time.
Do you think it's maybe a surface level issue, maybe, and there's like a bigger issue as far because like I hear what you're saying, and I'm just trying to put myself in your shoes because I've done the same thing, and that's how I
Yeah.
find styles too, is like Pinterest, right? And then you get everything, you get the boots, you get the jeans,
Yeah.
you get the
Yeah. Yeah.
jacket, da 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 da, and then you're like, why don't I look like the guy with perfect hair and like the step and like
Yeah.
the perfect, it's like this outfit doesn't look as great as I thought it does. But and like you said, tell me if I'm wrong. Is there like an underlying issue to that? Or is it just, you're just frustrated because,
I think the underlying issue If I were to say that there is an underlying issue, off the top of my head would be that I am getting older and I have a disability. There's no plan, there's no guide, there's nothing, no book that I can open up and be like, okay, I'm now in my early 30s and this is your plan of how you're going to live with the disability. This is the layout, this is what you follow, everything, you follow this and life will be grand. It's not like that. It's like, okay, I'm getting older and I'm starting to notice a little bit of pain here, and I'm getting frustrated that I can't express my style because I'm so limited. I am invited to a party where everybody wears white. Well, I can't. I have to go and pick the outfit, get the thing, get it altered, have it fit. It's a process. So your invite that you sent me 2 weeks ago is now something that I can't do. It didn't take 2 weeks to alter something. Like, it takes time,
especially in LA.
Yeah. So I think it's just like a mixture of everything. When you get older too, I mean, I think you like to express yourself with style, and you're so limited. I can't Google and be like, can I address for someone who is 4'4"? That's fashionable. Nothing like that's going to come out there. I mean, stuff is moving in that way, but not to this extent.
Yeah. And I once again I ask this respectfully, but it's like, if there were a genie to grant you the wish of not having spina bifida and not having a disability, would you change it? Would you take him up on it? Or
nobody's ever asked me that. No, because first of all, I'm Latina. My family's really tall. I mean, look at my hand, like, really tall. I have long dark hair. Okay. My family's really tall. I got a crazy attitude. I'm very outgoing. I would have broken so many hearts all over town. I would have just been the worst troublemaker, and I would have been a heartbreaker. And no, with that would come a lot of responsibility. So no, it was like, God's like, let's humble you a little. Let's just, like, no, because no. I mean, plus mental toughness, like, it really does help me in life. Like, aside from that, like, going back, it really does.
Yeah. No, I was just curious. And then it's like, maybe if it was one wish, maybe to not be in so much pain.
Yeah. If it was something like that. Yeah. Like, be able to put my shoes on and not have to, like, get on the floor, put my leg braces on, put my socks on, put my leg braces on, put the shoe on, which I put my shoes on backwards. So I use my fingers to feel the shoe and then tie the laces. So yeah, it would be like, okay, let's go.
And and I know this is kind of an oddball question too, that I just thought of. Do you have inventors reaching out to you for certain things? Cause I've already thought of like you do these, I've already thought of like 1,000 inventions. Like, I know we've talked about it a while ago, but with like your crutches, they don't have like sport ones, right? Like, you have your crutches, but you're doing these Spartan races, and they're not meant for like that kind of like wear and tear, or certain shoes or certain clothes, or like, I know you have a lipstick line, but I'm talking about for like day-to-day stuff. Cause I mean, I don't know. Has anybody ever reached out to you for anything like that?
So yes and no. So what happens is so we've been building crutches. I'm looking at them right now. I have a pair of crutches that have springs. So, when you're running, athlete, no disability, when you're running a race, the impact in your shoe, your foot, it takes a lot, right? Like, you have to have good insoles, you have to have good shoes, because you get blisters if you don't, and all these foot issues if you're a runner, an avid runner. So what was happening was, when I was doing these races, after a multitude of races, is my wrists were killing me because the impact. And there was nothing to bring me back up, like a spring. So when I would hit the ground, it would lightly take off the pressure and just kind of just jolt me a little. So we've been working on that, but the problem is with all of, with just mentioning that is designing something like that is you're looking at not only at cost, but you're looking at what type of aluminum, you're looking at what type of parts, where are those parts coming from, how much are these parts coming from, are they going to be able to endure mud, are they going to be able to endure how long is the testing on this? Like, I mean, we had a pair of crutches. My adaptive designer that I work with was literally here this week. Last week, we went right outside my building. I think I even have the video. Brand new pair of crutches that she designed, and they literally broke in 1 second. And I said, okay, let's go back to the drawing board. It's easier for me to say we need this. This is what we need. But there are just so many factors.
Yeah.
That are like.
The thing is though, if one of those ideas hits, like Shark Tank hits,
yes,
you're in a good spot.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, so to answer that long question, no, companies don't reach out to me in regards to building such, but I am doing consulting. I'm doing a lot of consulting. I finished a job yesterday. I finished a job a couple of weeks ago that I can talk about. And it's like brands are now like, oh, wait, we need to make products for the disability community, not only because it makes us look good, but because it also sells. So who do we go to? Oh, wait, we go to those who are disabled.
Yeah, I feel like, because I mean, to do the product research on something like that, I mean, I feel like you just ask who has or ask who use crutches and you get it that way. But like, I feel like just need to maybe find an engineer, maybe even like Elon Musk or something. I feel like if you like send him a tweet.
Too busy right now on Twitter.
Yeah.
He's a little caught up.
And maybe since you are on TikTok, there is I was looking it up because I couldn't think of his name. There is a guy, he's got 6 million followers on TikTok. His handle is Unnecessary Inventions. And he comes up with like unnecessary invention. You got to check it. It is ridiculous, but you tag it, you never know what these people are coming up with. I'm the idea guy, so I can't help you there, but I just think that would be really interesting because like I said, if you can get something like that and patent that, you are, you get garçon, you may never have to put your shoes on again.
Could you thank you. Time to put my shoes on. So, I mean, yes and no to that question. If we're talking about this subject, when COVID hit, the races stopped. The races stopped. Have
they started back up or?
Yeah, they started back up, but I didn't start back up. So, and it's not necessarily a bad thing. I know there was like a lot of pressure in the beginning for me was, what, you're not racing anymore? Like, why aren't you competing anymore? Like, I was one of the top. I mean, I was making good money being an athlete. I was making really good money by wearing a logo. Like it was great. Like I was like,
bring that back, please.
Yeah, and it's not that it stopped because COVID hit and everyone's lives got turned upside down. And then I was kind of like forced into the situation of, okay, the races, the gyms are closed. There's underground gyms. If you get caught at these underground gyms, someone takes a picture, shows you on social media, everyone's going to turn their back on you who doesn't believe that you should be. Like, it was really bad. Nobody can deny that.
Yeah.
And I'm a pretty easy person to spot. So, it came down to that because I was faced with that situation where there were underground gyms. But there was also people paying attention to who went those, who were going and making those, anonymous phone calls of, hey, there's a gym going on.
Isn't that ridiculous?
It was like literally happening. And I was seeing people that I knew from the race community bragging about making these calls. And I couldn't put myself in that position. And then my dad passed away from COVID. So then I'm like here in California dealing with this for like 3 months because we couldn't bury him because of the traffic of just so many people in line to be buried. So then we had to keep that for almost 2.5 months, just chilling, like literally. So we're dealing with that. And then the state comes in and says, you're disabled. We've been helping you with your health care because you have a disability from birth, but you can apply for this because your dad has paid so much into the system that there's something called survivor benefits. So then they take you off this that you've had since you were 18. There's no gyms, there's no races. You know, like you have all these restrictions. Your dad passes away. There's money that you can access. They deny you. The state writes me a letter, says that I am not disabled by any means, that there's nothing wrong with me. I think I posted the letter on Instagram and it said like my disability did not qualify, but this is the same state that deemed me disabled at 18 and has been paying for my health care for the last
Gotta love the
years.
system.
Here I am getting a lawyer in the middle of COVID, fighting for my benefits that my dad left me. It's already there. The money's already there. This isn't money having to be found from somewhere. This is a pool of something my dad left for me. So then I'm having to prove to the state, fight with the lawyer, my mental health, like all this stuff. So I'm like forced to, what am I going to do for income? So I'm in this mind frame again of when I took off a red shirt in a parking lot at Queen Mary of going, okay, well now I have a little bit more of a foundation here. Like, okay, I got a roof over my head this time. Like I'm in a semi-solid relationship and what do I do? So I'm like, okay, the brands that I was working with, let me get a hold of them, let them know I'm not competing, but I do have the ability to help them design. And it just kind of like evolved and I started getting into consulting. Like I'm literally consulting for like major brands. And it just started like evolving. Like I just finished a project a couple of weeks ago and like to see the finished product, to see it on a website, I was like, holy, like, I think I like doing this. Like I wouldn't even think about it. I really wouldn't. That was furthest from my mind.
Yeah. And did you hustle to get these opportunities, or I know you have agents and things like that. Did they bring it across your table, or is it like a mix between the two?
It's a mix between the two because I had built a name of, oh, that's Misty Diaz, or oh, if you're disabled, do you want to, walk or run, whatever, a 5K, talk to Misty, she can help you with the plan. Like there was all these things. There was, World News, there was, Shape magazine that I was on. There was, multiple articles of magazines that I've been in. I had slowly started to build that name. So when stuff kind of shifted and you're like, oh, we can work from home now. Like, oh, you can actually get work done from home. The industry on my side was kind of like, what can our talent do from home? Like, because my auditions are now are still at home. I set up my tripod.
It's the best. It's the best thing ever.
It's amazing. Like I don't drive into Hollywood. Wait.
I know. Anybody who hasn't auditioned
and
at home. Oh my God. So did I. When I used to live there, it was awful.
I will no, I won't. Unless I know that I'm like really solid to get this job, I will not do it.
Yeah. And with like working with all these brands and getting all these followers and becoming like an internet sensation, like what would you say your why is right now? Like, why are you doing what you're doing?
Why am I doing what I'm doing? Why? Because I understand what it's like not to have somebody to relate to. I understand what it's like to not have the ability to pull clothing from a rack at a department store online and be able to get it and put it on immediately. I understand what it's like to not, I understand. And there's ways that if there's ways that I can implement change now while I have the time and the energy and do good for the world and for the disability community. Because here's the thing, like Mindy from Runway of Dreams said, and this has always stuck with me. At some point in our life, every one of us will become disabled at some point. You are going to have a hard time when you're older putting shoes on. Do you think you're going to go to the shoe that is really hard for you to put on, that wasn't so hard to put on originally, but there's a shoe that is something similar that is easier for you to put on because there's Velcro? Yeah, you're going to be in your 70s, 80 years old, and you're going to be like, this shoe with the Velcro, that's pretty cool. I'm going to choose that because I can't bend down. So if we create this now, the next generation is going to have such a solid platform and so much more that they can go off of.
Yeah. And I would totally end it there. That was such a good like way to end it. But I've just got one last question. And it's like, so like, what would you say? Because there's a lot of people who are in your position as well. And I don't know, what would you, let's just say like you're in like a car going to the airport, windows down, you're in the back seat and they're like running towards you like, Misty, I've been following you. Like, I love what you do. But I'm, having XYZ problem. What would be like the one piece of advice you would give that person?
Ooh, that's a hard one. I think it just goes back to like, why are we making excuses? Like, why? I don't understand. Like, we have like now, I don't know if I'm going to have tomorrow. What can I do right now? Okay, I can start with this. Great. Let's start there. Like, it's just, it's a really hard question, man, because I don't understand why people, I've been in that mind frame of, I'll get to it later, or that's going to be a bucket list, or, we'll work on that sometime in the future. Why are we waiting? Like, honestly, ask yourself that. Why? If it's money, okay, so you draw out a plan. How to get from point A to point B, because I'm pretty sure that you telling me this, you don't have anything on pen to paper. Like, I don't know. That's a really hard question to answer.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure you'll answer it a million times over because I'm sure I'll ask you on social, but for people who do want to follow you online, where can they find you?
LIL, so Little Misty Diaz, LILMISTY Diaz, DIAZ. Type in anything on Google, Misty Diaz.
I will put, whether you're watching this on YouTube or you are, you see one of the shorts or anything from on YouTube or TikTok, or this, like I said, we'll chop it up into a million pieces, but in the description, you will be able to find all of her info. Misty, thank you so much for taking the time. I really appreciate it.
Grateful we finally did this.
I know. It's only been 5 years.
7 years, but okay.
I wish we could post the text thread. Do you have any times it's like,
I think we do. We have to. Like, I swear, I think I will screenshot it. If I have it, yes.
Awesome.